going today.
And especially for someone like Forlan in that jungle. He's known almost as the entry fragger for this team. He's the guy that goes in aggressive early on, gets his team ahead, gets his team kills. And we didn't see that much of that in the playing groups. He had a high jungle proximity, but wasn't converting that into kills. We're on to pick and ban Fenerbahçe on the blue side, Team 1 on the red. And already that Olaf, that power pick, being removed by Fenerbahçe alongside the Kog'Maw and the Alistar.
During the regular season, Forlan was 8-1 on that Olaf pick. And in the tiebreaker versus the Dire Wolves, it was a big part of why they were able to get that win. So 1907 Fenerbahçe is saying, you know what, we're just going to take it off the board. Meanwhile, Team 1, they're actually attacking one of the weakest early game performers on the side of 1907 Fenerbahçe in Padden, already taking 2 AD carries away from the Turkish squad. And it looks like that Civic could very well be left. Those are the only 3 AD carries that he's actually played, but you may expect something like a Kalista, given that they are on the red side.
I have to see what Team 1 decides to do finally. It is the Galio from Fenerbahçe, but Padden has been a performer who struggles in lane, but when it gets to the late game, absolutely shreds through his opposite numbers. He has been the standout performer for Fenerbahçe when it comes to team fights later on. Kalista left open here because of the Rakan ban from Team 1.
Ooh, and it looks like 1907 Fenerbahçe are going to say, you know what, we will just pick that one up, and we're more than happy to take it. But remember, Kalista is very much about dominating the laning phase. She is an early to mid-game style of AD carry. Thanks to her ultimate, she's great at setting up these engages, and you have so many options to kind of force things in the mid-game. But that's not what we've been seeing recently from this Fenerbahçe squad. They've been more about the mid to late game team fight. So I feel like Team 1 are challenging Fenerbahçe here, and they're going to see, let's see how well you can hold up in our 2v2.
And it's something Team 1 do so well. They capitalize on their enemies' mistakes. So they're saying, here, we'll put you in a lane perhaps you're not as comfortable with and make you make those mistakes. They'll get the Sejuani for Forlan, a jungler that can work out early alongside the Lulu for Redbird.
But bear in mind that the Jarvan has also been left available. I know that Thordran is more than happy to play this champion. He's always a big part of allowing the team to succeed. He really is a core strength or structure that allows the team, or supports the team, allowing them to succeed in a lot of these later game fights. So I think Fenerbahçe right now, they're going to look to get themselves the comfort jungle pick for Crash. He's had a lot of great jungle steals, or Baron steals rather, on that Gragas. And I wouldn't be surprised now if they rounded things out with something like a Gragas, or maybe even a Thresh, which is a very good pick into the Lulu.
Very good at catching the Lulu out. Fenerbahçe will go for the Morgana instead, though, trying to get rid of some of that CC chain we have seen a few teams bringing out. Fnatic, especially yesterday, were very good at catching people out with that crowd control. Team 1 now have the choice to go towards an AD carry, or perhaps lock in a mid laner and then look for bans in that second phase.
I wonder, because I'm very surprised right now that Jarvan has been left up for so long during the draft, but Team 1 are saying, you know what, we want to try and get a comfort pick for our mid laner. Bruiser, he did not have the best performance in this tournament so far. He felt pretty far behind when going up against Jensen especially. And now that he will be able to get that Syndra, very big power pick for him in the mid. A lot of setup as well in terms of the early game.
But he is playing against a mid laner that has had a lot of focus on him, both through the regular split and through this play-in tournament. Frozen has been one of the key catalysts for Fenerbahçe, especially with Crash being his old teammate, trying to synergize alongside him.
So now it looks like that Team 1 are just trying to take away some of the possible answers for Bruiser. And 1907 Fenerbahçe are going to do the opposite, saying like, oh, okay, we know what's pretty good into Kalista. We're going to ban away some of these AD carries. And a part of me feels like Team 1 have something special planned. I don't know what it is, Medic, but I just, based on the way the draft is going, I feel like they need to bring something special out, because Kalista is not the kind of champion you can let through. We saw what happens when you give it to a team like Cloud9 yesterday, and they very swiftly run away with the game. So given the strength of the champion in the current meta, you have to have something prepared.
Might save it for the last pick. We might see it here. No top laners picked for either side. Xayah snuck all the way through as well, so she will be locked in for Team 1. Has been one of the priority AD carries across the course of the split.
But in terms of the 2v2, I don't think it's going to do a lot to be able to shut down this Kalista. When you look at things right now, 1907 Fenerbahçe definitely should have the advantage in terms of the matchup. But as we know, Padden is not known for his laning phase. He is not about dominating that 2 versus 2. So it's certainly going to be an exciting lane matchup to watch as Fenerbahçe round out with their final 2 picks.
Getting the Maokai for Thordran is just a great pick for Fenerbahçe in general. He's played incredibly well on it, ganks that mid lane incredibly effectively, and now they've got their mid lane pick to finalize. Into the Syndra, already LeBlanc and Oriana have been removed. We have seen Echoes picked into it before, but it's going to be the Talia for Fenerbahçe.
So he's going more for the roaming style. Talia, very good at pretty much holding her own in any matchup, really. She doesn't really lose matchups, but at the same vein, she doesn't win them either. But what you do really want on Talia is pressure, because once you have pressure, it gives you the freedom to roam. Once you get that level 6, you have the ultimate, which makes it very easy to go from one lane to the other, cut off the escape routes of your opposition as well. And I think that's what Fenerbahçe is going to be looking for right now with the Kalista and the Talia. Early game playmaking on these side lanes, especially towards the bottom side of the map, seems very optimal. But with Team One Esports rounding things out with the Shen, it's going to make it harder for Fenerbahçe to try and force plays down in the bottom lane, because once he hits level 6, that Shen is primed and ready to turn those ganks in their favor.
Both these teams have had pretty dominant performances in their own regions. Fenerbahçe winning the last split in Turkey with outstanding fashion, in all honesty. Team One doing the same in Brazil, upsetting a lot of fans who are supporting INTZ or Pain or even Red Canids, and they are the new upstart team from Brazil that are now challenging on the world stage. But neither of these teams have really shone too greatly in the playing stage. Fenerbahçe struggled at times against HKA, Team One struggled against Cloud9, and now is their opportunity to prove that they deserve to be amongst the last 16 at Worlds.
I think both teams are happy with who they drew. From Team One Esports side, they're like, oh, we didn't get one from the big 3 regions. And from Fenerbahçe's aspect, they're looking at it from like, oh, okay, we actually got an opponent from one of the weakest performing groups. I think it's going to result in a really exciting matchup, because both teams are confident. Both teams have drafted very strong compositions, and it's all going to be about this early game from the side of Fenerbahçe. How well can they utilize this Kalista? Can they finally build themselves an advantage in the 2v2? Or will Forlan be the catalyst that allows Team One to get the early lead and win out against Fenerbahçe?
Single best of 5 remains between one of these teams and a spot in the group stage at Worlds. And I'm interested to hear you say that Fenerbahçe are going to look for this early game, because that has not been a characteristic of their play-ins thus far. They've been much more about having a minor deficit coming later on into the game and then being able to out-teamfight their opponents.
That's typically what we've seen, especially when you look at the tiebreaker between Fenerbahçe and HKA. In the early game, HKA were dominant. They were destroying the 2 versus 2 down in the bottom lane. They had pressure in the mid. Everything was looking wonderful, but then they were not making the correct decisions in the mid game, and Fenerbahçe were very quick to immediately punish them. Multiple times we saw them getting picks here and there, pushing their vision line even deeper, and then starting to group up as a 5-man unit where this team truly shines. Pan's positioning and teamfight execution is fantastic, and that's largely because of the amount of input that Tholdren puts in for his team. He really is a pillar that allows players like Pad and like Frozen to shine at the top and allow them to really stand out. But it's thanks to that backbone that he provides on these big tanks. So I'm excited to see this slight pivot from the side of Fenerbahçe and how Team One will be able to respond, because I do feel like they're pretty confident. They're saying, we don't think you can get an early game 2v2 lead, so we're going to pick something that scales better, especially with the Lulu, and we're going to bring it in team fights a little bit later on.
And that hasn't always been characteristic of Team One. Tholdren and Frozen are going to step forward here. Now spot that these Razor Beaks are not being done and steal away a few of them for their own. Puts Forlan a little bit behind in this jungle, so he needs to be cautious with his pathing and react to the aggression put on by Fenerbahçe early on.
I don't think he's going to be too upset about this, because by starting on the red, you typically want to go to wolves and then down towards the blue. You can see from Team One Esports, they did put that ward in the river to anticipate a potential invade from the side of Fenerbahçe, but no invade coming out. Instead, it happened on the top side, and that will allow Crash to get his early level 2, along with getting his own Raptors and red. And now he's going to path towards the top, but already in this 2v2 lane, you can see Padden and Japone being forced back, and this was a little bit what we were talking about. This is why I had a few question marks around this Morgana, because champions like the Thresh often have a lot more power when it comes to utilizing the strength of Kalista in the early game.
Alongside that, Japone has the Ignite in the lane, so they're expecting to be able to win out this laning phase. Padden pushes forward a little bit as Redbert trades back onto him with the Glitter Lance, and this is something that Team One do well in that bottom lane. Absolute and Redbert, a great synergy between the two, but meanwhile Crash is coming up towards top. Vert will get himself away from Tholdren, and Crash, as a jungler, obviously only substituted in to Fenerbahçe just before Worlds started. He used to play with Frozen on Longzhu, so there's a little bit of synergy there. But when he plays this Gragas, we tend to see him just slowly farm up and sometimes look towards mid for those early ganks.
Yeah, the thing about Crash is, what we heard a lot about from many analysts and experts was that this guy loves to get in your face early. He's all about trying to snowball the lanes. But coming onto a new team in a different environment, you've got to kind of adapt. You've got to shift and pivot your playstyle. And I think that he's done a fine job for now. But while his early gank failed, Forlan's looking to find some success in the top lane.
The entry fragger looking for his first kill as Vert there as well. The flash away, but Thorjan's going to get stunned, and this will be first blood for Team 1 in the top lane.
Forlan with a good movement up to the top side. He had the Raptor stolen away from him, but remember, he went from red into Wolves, into blue, then up to Raptor, which means he was on the top side. Top was already pushing in the favor of Thorjan, and now Vert is off to a great start.
Forlan's staying around here. Vert backs off a little bit. Thorjan will spot him out. There's the taunt, and once again, Forlan's just looking for the setup. Crashes on the top side. He'll be looking to try and get towards his top laner to save him, but the stun comes out once again. Crash with the belly bop knocks him back. Thorjan down to half as Vert puts down the Spirit's Refuge. Fenerbahçe able to fight this one out as Crash came to the rescue for his top lane. And meanwhile, in the bottom lane, a root lands onto Absolute, and he has to use the heal and the barrier. The Ignite ticking. Padden with the final shot gets the spear in the back, and now Redbird's trying to turn it around. He does get the help picks and will trade 1-for-1 in the bottom lane.
Wow, action happening all across the board, but this time 1907 Fenerbahçe are able to answer the pressure being put out from Team 1. Forlan trying to get those early kills for his team. He knows how important it is for them to have that early advantage, especially against the Kalista, and he's investing it into the split pusher in Vert. This is the first kill that happened down onto Thorjan. Successful gank. They get that early first blood onto the top lane split pusher that has given them a lot of success in the past. And while all this was happening, an engage happens down bot. Absolute getting a little bit too aggressive there, sitting in the minion wave for a very long time and really soaking up way too much damage than he should have. Unfortunately for Padden, this early game Lulu damage is surprisingly high. So he ends up giving away his life as well, but the fact that they're able to get a kill just goes to show that Padden, he's not messing around this game. He is very much about trying to answer the, or try to utilize the early pressure that he has on this Kalista.
Having the Ignite in lane definitely helped them out, as well as Redbird's heal was not as effective as it could be. We see Padden go back and secure himself a recurve bow. Will definitely help him out in the lane a little bit. Lots of focus towards mid here, though, from Team 1 as they bring Redbird and Forlan across. Crash is towards the bottom side of the map, perhaps eyeing up a gank on Absolute.
We talked a lot about the AD carry and how Padden, during the laning phase, he really is rather weak, minus 21.8 CSD. And this is the thing about Padden, he is very much a double-edged sword where during the laning phase, he's kind of like a wooden stick. He kind of hits you and it doesn't do much damage, but when it comes into team fights, he's kind of like Excalibur. There is no sword that matches its team fight prowess. And this is where he's really allowed to shine. We've talked a lot about how he has shifted this style and already he's doing great. But Padden, he's so far during the laning phase off to a fantastic start.
It is a lane we expected them to win as well, so I have to see how they're able to translate that first kill into more in this bottom lane, because that's something Fenerbahçe haven't always been the best at, actually accelerating when they have that early gold lead. And in fact here, Team 1 with that extra kill are still sitting about 400 gold ahead. And
while this is a great shift for the side of Fenerbahçe in terms of their playstyle, have a look at Brusa trying to make a play up towards the top side. A lot of investment from Team 1 Esports to trying to snowball Vert. He is playing Shen. And one of the most successful champions I saw from Team 1 during their regular season, especially during their playoffs, was when Vert got his hands on Shen. This is a team that knows extremely well how to utilize side lane pressure. They know how to play the 1-3-1, the 4-1 style of play, and looks like Fenerbahçe are trying to shut that down.
Thorjan's going to go in, the knockback onto Vert as well. No flash for him and no way of escaping Crash and Thorjan, who will be able to secure the kill. 2-2. Fenerbahçe and 1 are even in the early game.
So many ganks happening onto both these tanks. Not typically where you expect all the early jungle pressure to go, but so far it is keeping the game very even. Identical scorelines for both these top laners. And this could hurt Vert later on, as you will try to set up the 1-4 style of play that 1 are looking to take advantage of. But Fenerbahçe, as we said, great team fighting team. It's going to be fascinating to see how both these teams force the style that they are so comfortable at using.
And alongside that, you have to think of the the pressure on the players themselves. Momentum in a best of 5 is incredibly important, Edius, and being able to get the first win on the board, being able to say, yeah, we're able to actually shut this team down when playing a composition we're comfortable with, sets you up for success so well as you come later on into the series.
I'm just looking at the state of the map right now, because while Team One do have a slight lead, things like the Infernal Drake are on the board, and right now neither team putting a huge amount of emphasis on trying to get it super early. You can see a bit of vision coming out from Brusa in the bottom half of the river, and there are pings now coming down, so we were just talking about low focus, and Fenerbahçe see this as an opportunity to make something happen.
Rosen on a ward, does know that Brusa's around there because of the ward that Brusa has just stepped across, and Brusa is actually relatively even in this lane. There hasn't been too much focus from the junglers mid, but Brusa really struggled playing up against Jensen when they had to play them in groups, and this is a much stronger showing from him early on.
It does help when the jungler doesn't come mid like 3 to 4 times in the space of 5 minutes, but that is what comes with playing against a player like Jensen, and Frozen, he's pretty much just been holding his own alongside Brusa on this Syndra. We haven't seen a huge amount of early game plays being centered around the mids, but I'm sure Brusa has no issue with that. A lot of vision now being invested from 1907 Fenerbahçe in the bottom side of one's jungle. Team One, they have no idea where he is. It looks like he's trying to steal away this blue buff.
Misses the body slam, the knockback will come out. There is the unleashed power straight onto the base of Crash, and he will get removed from the map by Team One.
Good utilization of the Shen ultimate there. Just as Crash tries to get a punish onto Brusa, they're able to instantly turn it around, demonstrating some familiarity with this Shen pick, instantly coming in, ready to save his mid laner and turn the fight in their favor.
And it's the strength that we said Team One have. They capitalize on their enemies' mistakes. When they see someone out of position, they make the play, and now they're making the play for the Inferno. They secure it, but Pattern is not done. The TPs are going to join this fight as they look for the root. Doldrin goes in onto Red, but he's used the wild growth, but he will be the first to fall. Team One just looking to run away. They're accepting a kill and a blue buff in exchange for the Inferno.
So this time round, Vert didn't have the Shen ultimate to save his teammate's life. So Thordrin, he wanted to take advantage of the TP. Now they couldn't get the Infernal Drake, but they are able to get one kill. It did cost them a teleport, but Vert also used his teleport to try and match it. This is where the play all kicked off. And really, you have to criticize Crash for trying to make this play. He's not showing full respect towards the Shen ultimate. He thinks that he has enough damage with the element of surprise aspect that he and Frozen were ready, trying to get the collapse down, and they end up losing their life instead. So, arguably a bit of a misplay, a bit of over-eagerness on the side of Crash.
Coming back down to that bottom lane where we saw Padden have the advantage early on. He's got the kill in that last fight. He's now 20 CS up as well, and we want to start to see this translate into tower damage, into pressure on the rest of the map, because you have to use this Kalista while she spikes. Otherwise, as you get later on in the game, you will get outmatched by something like Isaiah.
But I think that just for Padden as a whole, this is great in terms of confidence and also just for the team, because we know the 1907 Fenerbahçe are a great team fighting team. We know that they've been able to come from a deficit thanks to their ability to work as a 5-man unit. And Team One Esports threw out the challenge to Padden and said, we don't think you can build an early game lead through your bottom lane. And they were the ones that ended up giving that early lead over thanks to a failed 2 versus 2. So Padden, off to a great start. Likely going to transition this well, but it now matters about how well they can deal with the split-pushing Shen being played by Vert, because this is the style that Vert likes to use, as it looks like Fenerbahçe trying to set up a bit of a dive in the middle lane.
And this is what Thordrin likes to do. He is the pillar of the team, and he likes to get these ganks off. Flash straight into Crash. Brusa knocked back. The seismic shove will spell his end. Fenerbahçe get the kill. Now Forlan's going to try and protect his tower a little bit as he forces Thordrin back. It's that magic healing up, and Fenerbahçe will be able to get the kill in the dive.
And this is why we call this man a pillar. He is the foundation of this team that sets up his carries for success. We saw this in the group stages against teams like HK and Rampage, where he would roam from the top lane and try and get his mid laner killed, using the Maokai, using the ultimate, and he's found success in the mid lane once again.
And it's the timing with which he does it as well. He is the captain of the team, and he knows when those Stand Uniteds are up and when those teleports are up and when people can actually join that fight. It was superbly done by Fenerbahçe. They also secure first tower for the first time in the tournament, and they get a gold lead of about 2,000 here over Team One.
So what we're basically saying is the Turkish representatives looking rather strong in their first game of this best of 5 series. Team One tried to challenge them, and Fenerbahçe are certainly answering the challenge. But now it's very much about how they transition it. Let's have a look back at how this play came about. Tholdren, he just walked down. There was no vision on the side of Team One. You can see on your minimap, no wards on the top half of the map. It gave him the freedom to just walk straight through the jungle, set up the flank. The ultimate was used to force the flash out of Brusa, but then Crash was there to cut off his escape. Beautiful mid lane dive that will also set them up nicely to work towards that mid lane tower after they've gotten their hands on that juicy tier 1 up top.
Padden and Japone being rotated up towards the top side to try and shut down Vert in this split push. In fact, they're going in with the face call into the Soul Shackles. Vert flashes away, respect, but gets caught in the binding, puts down the Spirit's Refuge. Padden will still get the stacks from this, though, as he looks to dive the Shen underneath the tower. And 13 minutes in, Padden is already 3-1.
You have to question the decision-making there from Vert. The top laner goes missing for a long time. You've already lost your bottom tier 1. This swap should be expected. But instead, he overstays in the top lane. He also eats the binding from Japone. And now they're looking to lose this tier 1. Fortunately, Team 1 will get there just in time to defend it. But this bottom lane of 1907 Fenerbahçe are really stepping up in this first game.
It's exactly what we wanted to see from them, and Frozen is looking up towards the top side for a little bit more. Stand United is available for Vert as he comes up, not even going to channel it yet, as one are going to get dived underneath this tower. There we go. Absolute pops the barrier. Wild Growth used as well. The dive continues. Fenerbahçe trying to get what they can out of this fight. They take the tower first. The stun is going to land onto Absolute. Forlan dead. It's a double for Frozen, and one are just getting scattered to the winds. A great binding from Japone. 3 kills down. Redbird running away, but I'm not sure he's going to escape today as Fenerbahçe collapse from all 4 sides. And they play the early game well. They don't even need to get to the late game. They don't even need to get to team fights because Fenerbahçe are routing Team 1.
Beautiful dive once again. Tholdren looking to round out the fight with another kill onto Redbird. Everything going fantastically for the Turkish representatives. This is fantastic in terms of their early game. We wondered how they would use the early advantages built both up in the bottom lane and in the mid lane thanks to the roams from Tholdren, and you can see the difference that Padden has made compared to his average throughout the tournament.
And when you give an AD carrier that's immense in teamfights that sort of early lead, you can only suspect that he will be devastating as this game goes later on.
So, the thing about this play you have to realize is that Fenerbahçe is so much faster on the play. We needed to see that Shen ultimate now. Keep your eyes on the minimap too, where the Syndra is. She is one of the big pieces of damage that is not in this fight yet. So by the time she finally joins, yes, she lands a stun onto the Kalista, but Padden's damage has already been done. Tholdren, he's dishing out his fair amount of damage as well. And Team 1, they're just too divided, they're too spread out. They're not ready for this kind of collapse. And this was one of the biggest weaknesses we identified about them from their playoff run was that, yes, they're really good at using side lane pressure. They're really good when the enemy team is split up. But when their opposition just group up as a 5 and come at them, especially only 15 minutes into the game, they kind of crumble. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to react. And 1907 Fenerbahçe are saying, well, okay, we'll just group up as often as possible and we'll force you into this situation and we'll get the win every time.
As you say, that is 16 minutes in, they now have a 5,000 gold lead. It's the sort of lead we saw from C9 and from Fnatic and from Team WE in their dominant games, and they don't look like they are stopping at all. They've had so many great rotations. Frozen using that Weaver's Wall incredibly effectively to join fights when he needed to. And once again, he's going towards mid. It's Tholdren and Frozen. It's the dynamic duo trying to catch out Brusa. Tholdren will be able to lock him up with the cat, and he will get the kill. The pillar on which Fenerbahçe stands once again helps Frozen in the mid lane.
Setting up for his team for success. Tholdren finding so many fantastic picks for Fenerbahçe, working with Frozen to shut down an overextended Brusa once more. I was about to bring up the topic of how do we find ways of Team 1 coming back into this game, and one of them was they need to be the ones to find picks. They need to be the ones to punish the slight overstep from Fenerbahçe, but they can't afford to make those kind of mistakes themselves. They cannot afford to be the ones overstepping. And unfortunately for them, Fenerbahçe is now in an extremely dominant position. They're going to utilize this Rip Howl to better break into the set of tier 2 towers. And now what I want to see from them is the movement of their vision line up towards the top half, or maybe even the bottom half of Team 1 Esports jungle. The world is their oyster at this point of the game.
Forlan looking to make that pick you wanted. Burt there as well, but there's not much more damage. Explosive cast comes out. Forlan still trying to sweep away Frozen, but the Sejuani can't freeze the Talia in place. Brusa eventually joins the fight, but won't be able to get any Scatter the Weaks down. And Fenerbahçe are just starting to push forward into the jungle of Team 1.
You have to question the decision-making here from Team 1, though. Why is the AD carry and support in the bottom lane when you have a Shen? They try to interrupt Crash and his spawning, but the Black Shield prevents the interrupt. They're able to get the Rift Hound out. He's still going to be at full health, too. Fenerbahçe, they are not taking their foot off the gas pedal. And
one of the major worries we had for Fenerbahçe coming into this series was the synergy they had with Crash, because he is a new player, but you can see just from that play there that Japone and Crash and the rest of Fenerbahçe are on the same page.
Oh, he's fine, he's fine.
He's not going to go for it.
Yeah, he's okay.
They're going to go for the mid lane tower instead.
Flank from Thaldrin.
This is something we see him do so often. Get that Nature's Grasp off, look for the catch, perhaps onto Brutzer or onto Absolute, but good play from Team 1 to block the cats that were coming in to try and secure a lockdown.
Also, a bit too early from Thaldrin. He saw Minion Wave already there, but then it instantly gets cleared out from Brusa, so the ultimate was used to zone away Team 1 from the tower. But unfortunately, Fenerbahçe didn't have the Minion Wave to then commit to that objective once they were zoned off. Now they have a Siege Minion and plenty of damage down onto this tower. This should be an easy pickup for them. 5-0 in their favor right now. 1907, Fenerbahçe looking fantastic in this first game.
Have to remember that Team 1 are a very young team as well. No player on this team above 20 years of age, and sometimes it just takes you a little bit of time to acclimatize to the stage you're on, especially when you're playing a lane that you need to try and go even, or that you're calling your opponent out and saying, we don't think you can play as well as you proposition to do in draft. When that goes against you, it can definitely play on your mind. So I want to see just a bit of patience here from Team 1. They do have scaling on their side with the Xayah, with the Lulu. They can play late game. The question is whether they can hold back the hordes of 1907 Fenerbahçe for long enough.
Exactly that. And Team 1, you have to remember this is still a best-of-5 series. There's still plenty of opportunities to turn things around later on. But with the game not over just yet, after we did see a 60-minute slugfest between Lion and C9 yesterday, you never know if teams are able to hold the line. It's very much about how Fenerbahçe find ways to break into the base. And now, this is very early into the game. For Fenerbahçe, they're going to start thinking about this Baron objective, not necessarily to take it, but to try and find picks onto their opposition. Push vision deep into the enemy half of the jungle to look for flanks like this one.
Thaldrin with the TP. I don't think Absolute has realized this has happened yet as the shield comes out. Redbird there as well. Forlan looking for the flank. They'll knock Thaldrin back, but already Absolute's taking the chunk. Redbird there as well. Here come the rest of Fenerbahçe. Brusa off towards the side, trying to knock them back. The seismic shove does not connect, and Fenerbahçe are just going to continue to roll this forward. However, they are flanked. They get some damage onto Burt, who flashes away. The explosive cast helps them secure the kill, and now the Feather Storm has to come out from Absolute. He flashes. Brusa still off towards the side. Great Glacial Prism onto Frozen, but he will cleanse that away. He is at 1 with the ice. And now Fenerbahçe are looking to go towards that Baron.
Now the jungler's still alive for Team 1. Fenerbahçe could only find a single kill onto the, and he still has teleport available. Fenerbahçe, they don't want to commit to the Baron though. They're still eyeing up those picks.
Not quite a Weaver's Wall that locks in Team 1. Forlan's going to jump across the wall and bring Thaldrin with him, and now he's caught in the wrong place as Redbird comes across to try and help his jungler. If they can take down Forlan, Fenerbahçe can look for that Baron, but they're going for Redbird instead. Absolute pulled off towards the side as Thaldrin is that tank, is that shield that Fenerbahçe need when the going gets tough and when they're looking to close out games.
This is much more of what they wanted. Frozen, the ultimate initially does not look good, but then Team 1 stick around too long. They do not want to give up all this pressure around the Baron, but because they overstay, 1907 Fenerbahçe go for the punish, and now they've got their eyes on this Baron. With the Kalista, with the Gragas, they have everything they could need to shut down that objective.
22 minutes in, they have an 11,000 gold lead. It's just ticked over, it's 10,000 gold still at 22 minutes. 5 towers to none, 13 kills to 4, a Baron in their back pocket, and a 5-1 pattern coming out from laning phase.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good if you are a Turkish fan. If you're a Brazilian fan, on the other hand, I'm sure you'll be thinking about how you adapt. You always have Marth on that substitute bench. If you need to bring him in, he has been perhaps slightly more consistent than Brusa across the course of this tournament.
But it also comes back to one of the... oh, yeah, we're going to have a quick look at that Weaver's War from Frozen. We have They wanted to let the Baron go, but they just couldn't quite do it. You can see Thordrin, he's able to land the W down onto Forlan. The rest of the team goes for the collapse. Redbird, unfortunately, you can't really provide big enough shields to shut down 4 members, which means that multiple members end up dropping, and now Forlan looking for a pick.
Gonna jump straight onto Frozen, the shield comes out, but it might be too little too late. Does manage to flash to safety. Bruiser had to flash for that as well, though, so it ends up being a summoner for summoner exchange.
But Fenerbahçe, they still have the Baron. They've got their eyes on the bottom lane. Vert, he's going to struggle to hold Thordrin up in the top lane. Now they take the objective down, and Fenerbahçe, this is great from them. You know, their individual lane is stepping up. Thordrin continuing to be that true core of the team, really, once again, setting up a lot of the map for success, either being it in terms of engages or setting up Frozen for success in the middle lane, along with Pattern just stepping up individually. That 2v2 really holding its own, getting their own advantages. And because all of this came together, the already good strengths from Fenerbahçe combined with the new strengths we're now seeing from Fenerbahçe and Chabon, this team is looking very convincing in this first game.
Do still have to close it out. Fenerbahçe have the longest game time of any team in play-ins, and sometimes it's because they can't quite close out when they do have a lead. You see Pattern forced back there. They're trying to play up towards the top side as Thordrin continues to push in, but Vert does have the teleport advantage and the Stand United if a fight was to erupt.
You've also got to respect the Team 1 composition as well. While they are certainly behind, there is a lot of instant burst and pick potential from the side of things like Syndra, from the Sejuani, from the taunt of the Shen. A lot of things that you just have to show care towards, because when you have such a convincing lead, you don't want to make one of those silly mistakes and potentially throw it away. As now Thordrin, you'd think he'd be in danger, but he's in his natural habitat. He is a tree of the jungle, of course.
King of the jungle at the moment as well. No one really can step up to him. Fenerbahçe secure themselves their second Mountain Drake, and with it they've got some pretty strong items as well. Triple item finished on towards Padam. You've got triple item as well on your mid laner as he puts down the Weaver's Wall to try and shut Team 1 away, and this is exactly what you want to see when you're trying to take an inhibitor, put the wall down and it opens up so much ground for you.
Love the ultimate there from Frozen. Zones the entire lineup of Team 1 away from the objective. That will be the first inhibitor of the game going in favor of Fenerbahçe. They also have the double mountain to add insult to injury. Now they've got their eyes on the rest of the map, but the Baron's going to be wearing off, so likelihood is they will back away. Then they start grouping at mid lane, they send Thordrin up to the top, and they may even wait for the next Baron, depending on how safe they want to take it.
They will have the Weaver's Wall up as well pretty soon. This is League of Legends by numbers for Fenerbahçe. It's much more patient, much more controlled. It's exactly what we wanted to see. They've been able to maintain a gold lead, a sizable one in 11,000 at this 26-minute mark, and it's never really looked like they were going to release their grasp on this game.
And it's just unfortunate for Team 1, because when you look at how their early game went as well, you'd think their game plan kind of went the way it wanted. Bruiser holding his own up against Frozen in the mid lane. Vert was getting early advantages against Thordrin. They set 2 ganks up into the top half of the map. Forlan was even able to give him first blood. And now you're saying, oh, okay, we have a pretty strong Shen, who once he hits level 6 has the ultimate, and we can look to make a bot play, but Absolute and Redbird, they made that fumble early on. They fell behind and they couldn't really do much as a result. And then Crash just kept ganking the top side, so Vert couldn't really use his pressure anywhere else on the map. And I felt like Team 1 came in with a strategy in mind, but when it came to the execution, they just fell short. So coming into Game 2, I still have high hopes, given that right now, things are looking very bleak for them as Fenerbahçe look to take their second inhibitor of the game.
Once again, 1907, Fenerbahçe just closing in on the win. Pattern takes a Scatter the Weak to the face. Here comes the Explosive Cask as well. The Stand United onto Team 1. But Fenerbahçe, 1907, are able to survive for the time being. The inhibitor's still alive here for Team 1. If they can get the engage they want, perhaps they can start to come back into this game. It seems like a monumental task, a mammoth task for them. But Team 1 have come from behind many a time before. Vert locked out towards the side. The inhibitor is being pressured by Pattern and Japone. A good finding is going to connect, and now we'll see Thordrin stepping up to the front. Already, Redbird is just dead, and Fenerbahçe are going to push forward further and further. This will be their second inhibitor. They can just go mid, or perhaps they'll even look to push in this next wave.
Keep your eyes on the bottom lane too. There's a big minion wave stacking up. There's a flash from Thaldren.
And the seismic shove just deleted and demolished Team 1 loser man, and now Fenerbahçe are going to look for the push. Vert jumps in, but there's just no damage at all from Team 1. 1907 Fenerbahçe are looking to clean this up. It will be a clean ace for them as they take down Absolute. They're going for the Nexus Towers, and they're going to be 1-0 up against Team 1.
Very convincing game from 1907 Fenerbahçe Esports. 18-4 is the kill score with a 15,000 gold lead to round things out.
And if you're a Turkish fan, this is exactly what you want to see. Fenerbahçe clean in the early game, clean in the mid game, and clean as they take down the Nexus to go 1-0 ahead.
So clean, I can see my reflection in the medic. Very good execution all throughout. Have to bring my eyes once again back to Thaldren. This guy, he just seems to be such a big catalyst for the team, whether it be engages, whether it be roams, whether it be just providing utility and protection for his team. He is one of the standout players for me, alongside Patton, who really just did step up during the laning phase, getting those 2v2 kills, bringing that early pressure to the rest of the map.